No one's looking at you. The spotlight effect is not real. Nobody cares. Shoot your shot. You will find amazing people. But you already know what you get if you do nothing because you're currently living it.
Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this?
You're now listening to a brand new episode of the Play Big Faster podcast.
Look what you done started. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. We are always trying to bring you new and original content and find people that can really enhance what you do as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or small business owner. Today, I have an awesome guest with me. Colby Wegter is an agency owner, and it's called the Autonomy Agency. And what he does is actually work with other agency owners, and he helps them expand their client retention to grow it 2, 3, or sometimes even 4 times what they would normally have. Colby, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sherry. It's going to be a ton of fun to chat with you.
I'm loving your evolution story. You starting out with an agency and now you help other agency owners. Let us know how you arrived in this space right now.
Yeah, so I was in the digital marketing world for 13 years, and 9 of which owning my own agency with a couple of other partners. And I experienced what most agency owners do is like massive burnout. And we got to multi-7 figures, which was really cool, but it was like at what cost kind of thing. And so I had a watershed moment for me because I burnt out twice in the same year in 2022. And so the result of the second one, because clearly I didn't learn anything between the first and the second one, was do things differently. And one of the things was I just actually started networking with people as well. I came from a really small place with very just one-track minded people. And so I think it was like took a long time, like my 20s and 30s to get out of that. And I started networking with people, and then you know how you have a problem like burnout and you think, oh, I'm the only one going through this. And then you start talking to a ton of people and you're like, wow, this is incredibly common. So the short story of the transition is I did a lot of different things with the agency that got me from complete burnout to 8-hour weeks, and we doubled in revenue and all this stuff. So amazing, right? You throw in systems and you remove yourself from as the bottleneck and things start working and you feel better about it. It became obvious after a while because I kept networking with multiple agency owners that they were going through the same thing, but they had no idea how to do these systems. They had no support from anybody. They were doing it all on their own. And so I didn't have any grand plans to help other agency owners. It's not a business move at all. It was more of went backing into it kicking and screaming because it just seemed incredibly obvious that these people didn't have support, and I was the only person I knew who had the exact experience that they were personally going through and then got on the other side of that. It's kind of where my promise is with these people is you're stuck in 6 figures doing everything, working over 50 hours a week. Let's get you to 30-hour work weeks and 7 figures, because that's a lot more autonomous life where you can say yes and no to whatever you want without fear. So that's the evolution. My business coaching other agency owners is only 1 month old. I only left my agency at the tail end of 2024. So it's really young, but it's already doing pretty well so far. It's exciting days ahead.
Let me start by first just acknowledging and applauding you for your acknowledgement that burnout is a real thing. And I think so many entrepreneurs, they just see it as being high achieving, and it's the cost you pay for being high achieving. And it's just something you deal with. So it's awesome that you were able to identify this and make the pivot. So at the point that you realized, I can't do this anymore, let's talk about some of the systems that you've identified that may help agency owners and even other entrepreneurs that can decrease the number of weeks they're working, the number of hours per week they're working.
Yeah, and you mentioned at the top is retention, right? So one of the things that I did, first of all, keep in mind, when you burn out twice in the same year, you're at I don't want to call it a rock bottom moment, but it's just would be something that people could understand when I say that. A lot of the systems I started was just out of I don't care anymore. I just need to do this differently. You know what I mean? Because I subscribed all up until that point of to get more, I need to do more. And it's just categorically false. You don't need to do more. There are people making more money than all of us doing far less. And that's where you want to get to because that's leverage, right? And so leverage didn't enter my mind at all so much as just I need this to stop. But in terms of looking backwards and what is available to every agency owner, first of all, you need to get out of I don't want to tell people what they should do, but it's just a universal statement. If you think you need to do more to get more, you're wrong. And it's not a hit at you. You're not a stupid person. It's just that's how you were conditioned. You were told to do more, like hustle culture, all that stuff. You don't have to. And another Another phrase that really resonates with me is if you don't build any business, but an agency, if you don't build your agency by design, it gets built by default, right?
Wow.
And so if you don't want to take 20 sales calls a week, you don't have to. There's multiple things that work. If you don't, like for my case, I was on the client management side of things. I wasn't front end sales. Why am I so passionate about retention? Because we doubled in business without doubling our client roster. We just got more value out of our existing clients, right? And so many people running an agency, it's like the moment they sign the client, they just stop trying and then they try and get another client, right? It's like this 80-20 rule, but it's completely backwards. If you spend 80% of your time chasing new people, you never truly solve the problem. If you spend 80% of your time delighting your current people, they'll never want to leave you. And it's way harder for someone to be convinced as a total stranger than someone who already knows, likes, and trusts you. If you deliver for them, they want to keep paying you. They want to invest more with you. And so initial systems, I would say, just to give like specific value, is one is just controlling your calendar. I call it the curation system, where it's color coding, Sherry. It's not flashy. It's literally red for tasks and stuff you hate, blue for the meetings you do take, green for personal stuff, yellow for needle moving, right? Right now, every single person that I work with and many people, they have one wall of color on their calendar right now. So how can you tell where the leverage is? Because a sales meeting looks the same as a task, looks the same as your dentist appointment. They all look the same, right? And so just by having a visual, you're going to see a lot more red and blue than you have green and yellow. And that's something you can start designing, right? And then there's just always delegating before you're ready and that sort of stuff. Like the systems themselves are incredibly simple, which is why we always start with mentality. Like every single person who comes into my program, I call it self-scale. If you can't scale yourself, if you don't actually believe you should be working less, then no one's going to follow you that way. It's like saying, hey, to your employees, I want you to have an amazing work-life balance, and you email them on a Saturday night. They're taking example from you. So I fight against the current right now, which is we'll get you 20 qualified leads and we'll get you blah, blah, blah. And 10 to 100 messages, depending on the day, of those every single day of like someone guaranteeing me. That doesn't solve the problem. Because if you're adding more complexity onto an already broken foundation, how you manage time and your actual relationship with it, it's only going to make it worse. That's my opinion. So we do a lot of philosophy and mentality in the first 30 days because everything trickles down from the owner, and then most of these people's offers, that's what a lot of my clients we're working on right now, has a bunch of stuff in there they don't need. Think of a website with 17 services in the menu. It's like, how could you possibly do 17 services really well? So I'm waffling. There's so many things, but the universal is it trickles down from the person and their mentality, and do they believe that they need to charge by the hour or work more to get more or whatever. We need to break down those walls first, and then the systems become very simple to apply.
So one of the first things that I thought about, if you have someone who is an agency owner who may be approaching burnout, or they could have full stop arrived at burnout, the first objection that I can hear is, I don't have time for new systems. I don't have time for a coach. I don't have time for someone to mentor me to do these things. But you really can't afford not to do it. Yep. How do you combat that? Because you have someone who is doing all the things and working harder and doing more. But when you start working on the mental shift and the mind and the mindset, how do you start getting people to see that this is of value so that they can actually start the process and work on retention?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the person. Like I have a program, but it's all one-on-one coaching, right? The program is just to make sure that they feel like they don't have to pay me forever. We're after a very specific result of getting a 30-hour work week and making more money. And so that's another thing with coaching too, is that was probably my resistance to being a coach is there's so many people who just say they are, but they haven't actually done it. So I wanted to resist against that. But if someone would push back and say, I don't have time to do it, okay, then let's install systems that give you back time. Right, which is naturally where we go anyway. And because I work with people one-on-one, and because I'm not interested in trying to be their friend, I'm here to get a result, right? I'm friends with these people, of course, but my life motto is I'm addicted to solutions, not feeling good. And I'm incredibly selective with anyone I work with. So they're going to be addicted to solutions and not feeling good too, right? And so the first thing all the time is just identify, okay, you want a 20-hour work week? I don't care about your aspiration. That means nothing to me. What do you currently have? If you have a 70-hour work week, then the 20-hour work week only applies, and that's a 50-hour gap we need to close. right? So if you say you want it, but then you keep behaving in, I don't have time for it, then you don't really want it. If you keep saying, I don't have time, then you don't want that.
Now, Colby, just backing up for one moment. I think that would be a great T-shirt. I'm addicted to solutions and not feeling good. I would rock that. I would rock that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd probably say it like 30 times a day. It's just another thing with burnout too, Sherry, is just like you look outward, you want recognition. I was working 70-hour weeks. I was the youngest partner by almost 20 years. I wanted my more experienced partners to see me as an equal and be like, hey, you're doing amazing stuff. And after a while, like the actual numbers were showing that 50 to 80 cents, depending on what month it was, walking through the door of every dollar was my work. And it doesn't matter. Like, it's a fact. It doesn't matter. But I was annoyed by it because I wasn't like getting the, hey, great job or whatever. I said I didn't have an ego, but if in hindsight I must have, right? Because I kept looking outward for like value and self-worth. And somebody asked me the other day, they're like, who inspires you? Or that common question, if you weren't making money, what would you do? And I'd be like, this. Because I got over this. I got over needing other people. Like, I'm here to solve a problem. And the problem is burnout. It's not, my promise is make more money and enjoy doing it. But a lot of the people come in burnt out or on their way. So I'm not like some sort of disciple of solving the burnout problem. I'm not qualified for that just because I burnt out. But there is a lot you can do with very little to start making it feel way better. And many times just having somebody, like, I didn't necessarily solve burnout because, and I've been very clear with this and transparent online, of I did get medicated for anxiety and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't, that helped. That wasn't why I got out of it. It was systems. And then I stopped doing everything alone. Like, I got pretty early on, and that was massive to be like, hey, you're not just by yourself. You know what I mean?
And I think that's such a great point. The point of community. Once you see that, okay, I'm not the only person dealing with this. So, maybe if I talk about it, there may be coping mechanisms or strategies or systems, like you mentioned, that are available. So let's talk a little bit about the keeping the clients part, because you're helping agency owners with the mindset. Now, they have systems in place. We're looking at retention. What are some of the things to keep the client?
Yeah, I think the one big error I see that a ton of agency owners are making is like they're talking about themselves more than they're talking about what the client wants. And this comes from their marketing to the sales process to actually delivering, is they're always talking about what they're doing. And I just don't think the client cares. All the client signs on for is they either believe that they need it and you were the first person that walked in the door, or they believe in you and that's why they pay you. But they're not coming to your funeral, even if they really like you, right? They're there for a result, a transformation, right? They want to get from A to B. And so when you're talking about all the features you have and, hey, look at this dashboard of analytics and blah, 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 they just glaze over because it has nothing to do with what they actually care about. How is this transforming me from where I was before I hired you to where I want to go? Two things really is you always need to translate it back to what the client wants. And so like to combine it with an actual system, something tangible that people can listen to. We had a client Bible, and it wasn't just, hey, here's the client's name, here's the day they signed, here's what plan they're on, all that sort of stuff. It was, here was their body language on the last call. Here was a problem that they actually, like, this was the reason they signed with us to begin with. That problem is still relevant now. Here's a secondary problem that they mentioned 2 calls ago. Like, here is, are they the decision maker? Are they not? Are they a driver personality or are they passive? All of this stuff in one big spreadsheet, columns and columns of information, so that my agency wouldn't have to rely on talent and time. It could rely on actual vision and data. So that's one, is know your client and actually try and help the client. Which is funny to me when people start an agency just so they can sell it someday. It's like, I'm of the opinion you don't care about your clients if you start something with the idea of getting rid of it. So of course I don't work with those people. I'm not saying if you've ever sold your agency you're a bad person. I'm saying like if you expressly started it for that, you're not my person and I can't help everybody. Okay. But another retention one too is just like really simple. Again, these are, people want something to be really flashy and, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. That's not what keeps clients. Now you're selling clients on a bullet point list. If you turn that into a timeline of first this 24 hours within you sign, we're doing this. 72 hours, you're getting this. A week, you're getting this. by 30 days, you have this result, or at least a predicted result, right? Here's what happens if we hit it. Here's what happens if we don't. Like all clients, your only thing you should be trying to do with a client is answer what's next before they ask you.
This is so good. Now, I will have to ask you because, this is the secret sauce question that everybody gets when you come visit with us. If you had just one piece of advice to share with an entrepreneur on how to play big faster, what would it be? We've heard your origin story, some things that you do to help agency owners. This is your one chance to help one entrepreneur out in the world to move the needle. What would that advice be?
Yeah, I'll be super brief because I have two. If you're like feeling alone, is get around the hoop. Right? You're not the only one doing this, and you chose to do this. So go find other people who chose to do it, and preferably ones who are like a step or two ahead of you, right? If you don't know how to network, hop on LinkedIn and start sending messages. No one's looking at you. The spotlight effect is not real. Nobody cares. Shoot your shot. You will find amazing people, right? But you already know what you get if you do nothing because you're currently living it. So congratulations, right? All you have to do is flip one switch and your life gets better. It's pretty straightforward. In terms of the play big faster, from the client side of things, quite literally is just, I would love to make it more complex, but just ask your clients what they want. Just
there it is.
Yeah, just literally, so many people are looking outward for the solution. They're looking for the CRM, they're looking for the lead gen, they're looking for an appointment setter, they're looking for the next viral social media strategy. None of that stuff is predictable, and it's way more work even if it does work. You are sitting on a gold mine of stuff, right? If you have existing clients, I would not encourage you to look outward and try and solve all these other problems until you've looked at how can we ensure that we have maximum value out of people already paying us. And one of the easiest things to do is say, we're crushing it over here for this thing you bought with us. What other problems do you have? And they'll tell you because they already like you and trust you.
Love that. So for someone who wants to continue this conversation with you, what is the best way to reach you and just find out more about your new venture?
Yeah, so it's called Autonomy Agency, so autonomyagency.com. If you are a six-figure marketing agency owner, that is the place to be in terms of trying to get to seven figures and not stressing out while you do it. Otherwise, I just produce content daily or a few times a week, depending on the platform, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only Colby Wegter on earth. So if you give that a Google, you'll find LinkedIn and YouTube and all those sorts of things, so you can find me there for the free stuff.
And we'll definitely include those links in the show notes. Colby, thank you so much for joining us.
Dude, it was amazing, Sherry. Thank you so much. Great questions.
And to everyone out there who's listening, until next time, play big faster.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and remember to play big faster.